I want to know more about the stories and accounts that are harder to place, harder to accept, that kind of put us between reality that we understand and some metaphysical world that we don't. I want to see how our reality looks when we stop dismissing the bizarre. And that's led me to talk to Beau, who's going to share incredible yet uncomfortable encounters that shed light on a reality that would be easier to deny.
Hello, Mateo. How's it going?
Hey, Beau.
Good to see you, man.
Good to finally
Yeah.
talk to you about some of this stuff.
All right. My name is Beau McKenzie, and I want to share an experience that I had a few years ago. And my intentions in sharing this story is not to scare anybody or alarm the world of any of these kind of paranormal activities, but we do have to be aware that these phenomenons are real. And I had a first count experience with some of this paranormal activity in regarding what I'm about to talk about. And it also involves my father. So a few years ago, back in 2016, I had a radical spiritual awakening. And if anybody's ever had a spiritual awakening, it's very, you oscillate between this reality and another reality. And I was on a mission to find God, basically, and I wasn't sure where I was supposed to go. I was living at my parents' house, and in this spiritual awakening, I tuned into my father and where he had previously went. And one of the destinations in my family was Overton, Nevada. And in Overton, Nevada, I had an uncle that had a house there and property. It was very beautiful, and it's right next to the Valley of Fire Park. So this is a vortex, just like Sedona or Crestone, where we're here now. And I took my father's RV and said, well, I'll just go down there and live and see if I can make a go of living there permanently. And my grandpa, J.P. McKenzie, used to go down there with my grandma snowbirding at my uncle's place. So it was a real magical place that I really wanted to go to. So I was there for about 6 months to a year, and I was staying there, and I was very fascinated with this town. Now, mind you, in this town, there is no, this is a town where the billiards never came. It was very controlled by the Mormon influence, meaning they didn't want any outside influence, any pool hall, any debauchery, or anything like that. So it had the Valley of Fire vortex frequencies, and what I experienced there was very out of this world. My dad had warned me that a good friend of the family had gone down to adjacent towns where Native American tribes lived, and they later found him dead in a culvert, and they threw drugs around him and said that, he had done some really terrible things on the Native American land, and it looked pretty staged to my dad. So he was kind of like saying, be careful. There's some not so friendly Native American reservations in the adjacent areas, and be mindful that that could be you. And so while I was in the town, I was able to find this van for about $350. It was a great deal. The police and everyone started becoming aware of me. I'm a very free-spirited guy. I was trying to do a business called concrete coating. I was trying to establish myself there in the area, and I'd met locals in the area. And so I befriended this Native American kid, and I thought he was fine, and we would go to fire pit parties, and it was great. And during one of the fire pit parties, I saw him become possessed with an entity right in front of me. And at that point, that's when all the paranormal started to happen. There was another Native American kid that lived in the town that if you stated his name 3 times, he would magically just appear. And it was very bizarre when he would show up, and it was like very not a pleasant feeling being around this individual. And so in this process of trying to reestablish myself in the town, start a new life, I started to experience tremendous amounts of paranormal activity. One of the, let me share one story. So I had this van, and I parked at this woman's house. She said I could stay there. I was sleeping in the back of the van, and there was this neighbor guy next door, and out of the back of my van, I like opened the curtains, and what I actually observed was probably the closest thing to being like a zombie. It was walking as though it was looking for something to eat. At that point, I got very fearful in the van. I was thinking, oh my God, I just started praying, like, I hope this thing walking, like literally like the movies, and it looked like it was going to find me in the van. Very spooky, very alarming. I had an axe in the in the van. Unfortunately, in that situation, it did not actually see me, but this was somebody that was definitely possessed with some kind of an entity, or looked like in the form of a walking zombie. And so I continued to have these kinds of experiences. And one of them was this kid kept trying to get me to come out to the Native American land. And he did some black magic on me one night. And I just became kind of confused what I was doing. And then at that point, he got me to come out on the Native American land, and then he kept tempting me that he was going to get me a bunch of money and drugs and all this wonderful stuff, and everything was going to be okay. The cops rolled up on the Native American land, and I just, all of a sudden, he had my phone, and I kind of just snapped out of this evil spell, I guess you would say, and I was like, oh my God, it just like in my awareness, these guys are going to kill me. They're going to take me out into the desert and literally kill me, just like my dad told me in the story with the culvert. And immediately I said, oh, just let me have my phone. And he's like, no, just go down this road. And the cops are there, mind you. Very scary, very alarming reality check come to my awareness. Somehow I got my phone, I slammed the door, and I just took off as fast as I could. And I went back to my uncle's property. He then proceeded to come up to the property, and then that's where the black magic works, right? Like, do you give me permission to come on your land? Anytime someone wants to take your life, they basically state it before they're actually going to do it, so that they can actually get your permission. And so I learned a lot in that experience. So my uncle's property was a safe space that I could go to. As time went on, I just kept getting continual paranormal activity, such with this one Native American kid that I was telling you about. He would appear, and it was almost like he could shapeshift he would be to my left, and then a stream of lights would go, and he'd be to my right. I was seeing ghosts. I was seeing all kinds of apparitions, and all kinds of not friendly things. So at that point, the local cops became aware of me. They did not like me there. One of the local cops approached me and said, Beau, it's not about the illegal activities that you're doing in this town. It's what you're talking about. And there again, I was awakened, and I was understanding that this is a very closed Mormon community, and they were wanting me to leave. Now, they did not want me to leave with the van or any kind of vehicle or anything. So they were trying to entrap me in this experience. The other kid that I had hired with the concrete coating business named Adam, he was also possessed as well. And he started to steal things from me, I was basically getting robbed. They were taking my car. And so this was a very terrible situation. I was in a fighting spirit at the time, and I learned that fighting is not the answer. However, when he stole my equipment, I called the police to report that my stuff had been stolen. An FBI agent called me from Las Vegas and had me explain what he looked like. Did he have large ears? Did he look like someone from outer space? And then I started to realize, like, this is real. And then at that point, I called my father and I said, Dad, I don't think I can leave this town alive. And just the father-son connection, he knew I was in trouble. He came down, got a hotel, and he had a shotgun inside the hotel. He's like, we're right to bear arms kind of family. And so we talked to this other guy I knew, and my father, for some strange reason, has seen a lot of different paranormal things, such as Bigfoot, alien spaceships, but he'd been reading about what is known as skinwalkers. And I'd already experienced a certain level of that, but hadn't actually seen one fully and completely. And so I was in the hotel room, and let me back up. We talked to this guy, and he said, and my father said, this guy said, you're a righteous man. And he goes, and my dad's like, wow, that's interesting. And he goes, and then my father proceeded, do you know anything about skinwalkers? And he said, oh, sure, just put out some oranges out in front of your hotel, and this will be a message of protection, plus you'll be able to see one. And I'm kind of thinking with my dad, like, why are we doing this? I just want to get out of the town because I've already experienced a level portion of it. So it was later in the night, about 10 o'clock, my dad I'm inside the hotel, mind you. I'm looking at my father open the door with the shotgun. He opens the door, and I see him look up into the sky, and I saw in my father's eye almost like the most terrifying look that I'd ever seen my father ever have in his face. Just completely white, like, oh my, what? Like, what is that? And he slammed the door, and I proceeded to say, what did you see? What did you see? And so then he proceeded to draw it on a piece of paper. And basically, it looked like a vampire and it was literally flying in the sky. So it had human-like features with ears, and presumably what a Dracula would look like, but it was flying through the air like this. And so, having already had the previous experience, I knew what my father had eyewitnessed in the sky. And he proceeded to talk about it for a number of months and show people the piece of paper that he'd actually seen this thing flying in the sky. So these kinds of entities, I believe, tend to be around Native American reservations, and this is no respect to Native Americans or the elders of the tribes, because I believe there's very righteous elders in Native Americans. However, the cesspool of these entities seem to come out of that zone. So I'm grateful to be able to share this message, and I hope that these stories, people have the courage to come out and talk about them, and not be in fear. Because again, I'm sharing this as an understanding that we don't know everything about our reality here, and when we see something that's not a normal, it's real. It's a real thing, and it's a life-threatening thing. And so for me, it's given me the courage to understand, instead of just blocking these dark aspects of this reality, is to just accept this darkness and to the reality that they're not here to for any good reason whatsoever. And so for me, I was on this very other side of the light, where I was tuning into God consciousness and connecting with the light. And so that, when I believe that when you raise your vibration, we tend to think that we attract like-mindedness, but actually my experience has been that you attract light and dark. And so it's really awesome to be able to talk about this. I'm grateful, and I have many other stories to share, but for now, I think that's good.
I want to know how the world looks when I stop dismissing these encounters, and how the framework of the nature of mind and reality reveals itself. Come with me on this journey with Modern Explorer.